Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Action. Thank you for joining us today. We have a special guest today we'll introduce in just a moment. And the topic today is the power of value based storytelling. Very helpful for small businesses, medium sized businesses, and different roles within a company. So, welcome, Charlotte, and hi, Deb.
Hey,
Hi,
how's
great
it
to be here.
going? We're so happy to have you here with us today, Charlotte. I think this is a topic that is very near and dear for Kristina and I. Anything with value-based storytelling is right there as a part of what we do on a daily basis in our world. So, before we get into questions and stuff like that, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about you?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about the topic as well. And I'm going to tell you a story because that's what, what we're here for. Growing up, I was fascinated by the world of marketing, the power of storytelling, the art of persuasion, and the thrill of bringing ideas to life. And so I'd watch these movies in TV shows in the 90s where marketing professionals were pitching bold, creative campaigns, and I saw myself in them. I was strategizing, I was influencing and making an impact. And so marketing was the most compelling choice when it was time to choose my undergraduate major and career path. 4 years into my marketing career, after graduating from college, I quickly learned that marketing isn't just about products, it's about people. So every brand, every idea, every project, every initiative I led had an audience. It had a strategy and it had a story to tell. And that realization then propelled me into the world of employer brand and recruitment marketing, where the lived employee experience became the product I championed. So I researched the employee experience with focus groups and surveys and analysis, just as I would in marketing. And I promoted and marketed the employee experience. But I didn't stop there because I knew that attracting talent is just the beginning. It's only the beginning. The real work is in creating an environment where people thrive. And so that then took me from managing talent acquisition strategies to talent management, to DEI and ERG development and strategic HR programs, onboarding to learning and development programs, employee referrals, alumni, offboarding initiatives, and succession planning. And that was over a 25-year time frame. So with each stage of my career, I have progressively built upon my expertise with that foundational marketing knowledge that every program can be treated as a marketing plan with a great story to tell. And so what moved people ultimately in all of my roles was the story behind the work, the real life experiences of employees, why they stayed, why they felt included or excluded, what moments defined their journey. And that's when I realized storytelling isn't just about marketing communications. It's not just a marketing communications tool. It's a leadership tool, a connection tool that brings value to messaging or any messaging.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm curious, and I just, if you can, I'm not gonna, I guess I shouldn't say dumb it down, but like just like in a simple sort of effort, because I do a lot of marketing stuff and I have some experience with various areas, but what's the real gist of value-based storytelling? Like, how does it differ and sort of what makes a story become value-based and really more effective?
Yes, great question. So to break it down, I'd say value-based storytelling is all about connecting your brand story to your core values, the thing that actually matters to you and your audience. It's not just about telling stories for the sake of marketing. It's about telling the right stories, the ones that align with your mission, that resonate with your audience. So knowing your target audience and narratives that make people feel something real that they can relate to. That's what's most important. So you can ask, well, why is that so powerful? Well, because we live in a world where people crave authenticity. Consumers are skeptical, job seekers are more demanding and judgmental than ever. Employees want to work for companies that walk the talk, walk the walk. And guess what? Stories build trust, and that's what we want to do, is build that trust to get what we want from our employees and our candidates and our customers. I remember this study from Stanford found that people remember stories 22 times more than facts alone. So think about that. It's 22 times more. So if you want to be memorable, if you want to be relatable, and if you want to actually care about the brand and messaging, storytelling isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute must. So I'd say, like, in a nutshell, value-based storytelling focuses on the audience or the customer's perspective. And instead of just kind of talking about your product or service, the story is told from the viewpoint of the user. Sometimes that would benefit or value the user, and showcasing how it addresses their needs and challenges. So I'd say providing a real life scenario, a case study, or a client quote on how your service made a difference in their business and how it impacted their bottom line. And when I say how, it's truly not about the numbers, it's about what happened to get the numbers there.
Yeah.
And that emotional intelligence is another piece that's important. By weaving in relatable emotions and experiences, the story can create a more powerful connection with the audience. I would also say alignment with core values. The narrative should reflect the company or brand core values, and knowing your business core values will connect it to your origin story while demonstrating authenticity and purpose. So again, why are you here? What do you want to do? And that's demonstrating tangible outcomes with your stories. They should include those concrete examples of how the product or service made a positive impact or positive influence. So overall, these are the elements that how I would define value-based stories.
Yeah, and we talked a lot recently about like how AI is helping things and doing certain things, but it also is creating some distrust. And so I think you just kind of reminded me that the story, this value-based storytelling can be another way to build trust with any kind of messaging. So nice.
Yeah. And I think with that on authenticity that you were talking about, that everybody is craving, we've seen such a shift from those fancy, highly expensive corporate videos that used to just flood everybody's career site and website, now going away, and you're seeing like iPhone videos of employees just talking about a day in their life and all those different things. I think one of the challenges that I hear sometimes from business owners is they struggle to really define what their core values are and how to articulate it. So any suggestions on how to like bring that out of them or help them to form those?
Yeah, and I do see that too. Companies do get stuck with that, and they want to tell great stories, but they don't know where to start because they haven't clearly defined what they stand for. So my trick is your brand values aren't what you say they are. They're really what you prove through action. So if you want to uncover your real values, you ask yourself or your stakeholders questions such as, for example, what's a non-negotiable for us? What do we absolutely stand for? Yes, these can be aspirational, but they really need to be realistic and factual to how you perform today. So you're answering the question, what do your customers or your employees say about us? Even your partners and your stakeholders, your suppliers, not just in marketing, but in real conversations. What are they saying about you? Another question is, when have we made decisions that reflect our values? And even when it's hard to do so, and then what are those experiences? And so then once you've got those answers, you want to live your values. And because if your values don't show up in your actions and your storytelling is just empty words, and audiences can't spot, they can really spot that inauthenticity a mile away. So if you started with research on your core values as a company, your story is halfway there. Let's say you define your core values based on a scenario of a customer asking you to create a messaging strategy that was unethical or impractical to their customer base, right? You recommended another approach based on research that was not ethical but compelling. And this shows your value of work ethic, a core value that means a lot to the business. And then to back that core value, you can gather a quote or a case study from that client to tell a story. Another way to define that core value is to share your own story as a business owner, your origin story, or why and how you started your business. A friend of mine actually made me think of a story about my friend who worked in communications in corporate. We worked together at a company for a year or so, and he had the same amount of experience, about 20, 25 years. And she saw and experienced the stress and the dis-ease her peers experienced. And she learned yoga to help her own stress. And then she got a license to help her community, her family and friends, by giving yoga lessons. Then she began to do private lessons, paid private lessons, which turned into offers to do yoga retreats and corporate retreats. And so this business then blossomed into a successful, independent, brick and mortar health and wellness studio. And so within her origin story, her values of course, health and wellness, that's clear. But there are a few more here that she's able to weave into her origin story of passion and purpose and community support, resilience, and empathy. So that's the story. And these are just a few examples of the relationship between core values and storytelling.
Yeah, that's an awesome example.
Awesome. I'm all about the process, so I'd love to hear sort of the steps. Like, how does a business go about developing authentic brand stories?
Yeah, authenticity. Okay, authenticity in storytelling. It really comes down to real people, real experiences, real impact that made a change in someone's life. So here's what I always say: don't just show me, tell me. And not everything is going to be flowers and sunshine and balloons. Being authentic means highlighting both challenges and successes. So, for example, don't just say you value diversity, highlight an employee's journey of growth within your company to tell that story. Don't just say your product changes lives. Tell the story of a real customer who was transformed by your service. And you don't want to just say your culture is great. I see that a lot. We're a great place to work, right? And you want to let employees share why they love working there. Do that employee generated content. And it doesn't always have to be expensive, right? There's so many different ways to get employee stories. Another example, I recently worked on an initiative where we needed to showcase why employees loved working at our company, because although we were going through turnaround from a bankruptcy, we were still hiring. And so we needed to put some persuasion and passion into the reputation management. And instead of putting out a generic corporate message, we just simply asked employees to tell their own story. We had forms. We also, gave access and allowed them to submit video. We held a contest and giveaways for that. and ask them one or two specific questions: why they stayed through tough times and what moments made them proud to work at the company. And so those stories, they helped us in not just retention of our employees, but also attraction. And people, at the end of the day, people trust people, right? They don't less trust brands. So empowering employees and customers to be your storytellers, that's really the most effective approach to storytelling. And if it's a small business, I'd say focus on ownership, focus on your investors, focus on some of those customer stories. And so I'm going to tell you another story. I just had a big birthday party. I was looking for a photo booth company to take photos and make the experience fun for my guests. I started reviewing companies, and I'm going to tell you, 5-star ratings and reviews are very important to me.
Mhm.
So I began reading some of those reviews, and I do read reviews. Sometimes I'm not even going to buy the product, and I just read reviews.
Yeah.
And I made my choice right away. It was obvious that the company I chose had real reviews by real people with real parties and experiences, because they had photos and they had receipts to back it up. And a few days after my party, I received my digital photos and an invitation to provide my own review. But not only just an invitation, but specific questions on what they wanted to know about my experience.
Smart.
So this is the perfect way to help. I thought it was a perfect example to help craft stories you want to tell, they wanted to tell to prospective clients, and also bring that authenticity with it.
Oh, makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. I have a question, maybe for either one of you, though. Like, do you find that sometimes you have a CEO or a leader who doesn't stay within the focused message? Like, do you give them the box of things that they can talk about, or have you seen any success with trying to physically, like, help the story stay on task for that?
I have. I mean, I've managed a number of video testimonials, employee testimonials, and sometimes you just want to let people talk. Just you're gonna
Mhm.
eventually pull out the story, but having those follow-up questions to come back to the conversation and back to the theme of the video, yes. But sometimes just letting that conversation naturally go into their own story and their own narrative, that's what's really important to keep to that authenticity.
Yeah, I think I found that as well, Charlotte, where they might start off by saying something similar like, "Oh, I stay because we're like a family."
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear that, 20 more times at the beginning. But to your point, if you let them talk,
Mm-hmm.
it goes deeper into why they feel that connection,
Right.
and then those are the moments that you can really pull out, because that's where it kind of differentiates the message, instead of saying, "Oh, we're a family," and then there's like, "Oh, you sound like everybody else in the world."
Right, I know.
We can't use that.
Right. We want to hear the story. We want to hear your story.
Exactly. Data and metrics are, I call myself like the cookie monster of data, because I really love getting into that, and understanding it and helping it inform me. But um, I think that emotion is what drives action, right? So how do you balance storytelling and also delivering hard facts? Because sometimes those facts are the social proof as well, So how could somebody accomplish that?
Right. Yeah, it is a balance. Definitely is a balance. And I'd say this is my favorite part, because that's a whole new, a different topic altogether of telling the story with data, right? And so you want to blend that data with emotion and even decision making, and start with a story that, number one, grabs attention, and then reinforce it with data that validates your point, and then finally bringing it back to the human element and how that influences your target audience, the real people. And so, number one, you want to know what your audience is wants, right? Their true intent. What do they want to get, and what are they interested in, right? And then use that research to bring that back to the human element. So, for instance, instead of just saying our initiatives increased retention by 20%. First, tell the story of an employee who stayed because they felt valued. We were just talking about that. What is your story? What is your individual, unique story? And that can sometimes be very emotional. And you want to, again, you want people to be real, authentic, and it's not always going to be happy. Sometimes you're going to get some very sad stories about, someone got sick in their family and the company allowed them to take leave, and the employees were very supportive, and you're going to get those emotions. But the story is that they felt like they belonged. They felt valued at that company. And that's okay, because we all resonate with those feelings, and then back it up with the data of we were able to retain a number of employees, that we had a really great engagement score, that we won these awards, or a great company to work for. And so, again, tell a story, grab people's attention, but first research what is it that would, what is it that your customers, your audience wants. So people feel stories first, then use data to justify their decisions, and that's really the magic of
Awesome.
Yeah, wonderful.
So I know we've hit a lot on, highlighting employee stories to sort of build talent at an organization. Any suggestions if a leader is just starting to do this, like they're figuring out how storytelling becomes part of their overall strategy? Any idea on what those first couple steps are, so that it's not so daunting, the whole task of it?
Yeah, I would say to start small. I would say tell your origin story of why you're here. And I'm speaking to both large companies and small companies. Focus on your purpose and how you are influencing or making a difference. I see that that statement of we make a difference. I see that a lot. But then you read into what comes next, and it's like, well, how are you making a difference, and how are you making a difference to me as an individual? So you really want to be able to connect, and try to connect that to different pockets of your audience, because you're going to have more than one target audience, right? So find one great story to get started. Find one great story, a customer, an employee. It could even be a supplier, but a true defining moment, and interview satisfied clients about their experience with your product or service. Ask them what was their problem before? How did your business help them? What changed for them? For employees, you want to capture moments of teamwork, innovation, community service. I mean, there's different categories, especially if you have an EVP, an employee value proposition. You have those pillars of, why someone should join, and you want to tell a story for each one of those pillars. You want to make sure there's a story for each one. You can have many stories, but you want to make sure there's a story for each one of those. And that could be your values, it could be your credo, it could be your employee value proposition. Every company calls it something different. And you did focus those stories on something different.
Yeah.
And then I'd say gather feedback through Google reviews, LinkedIn recommendations, video, direct conversations. Had experiences where we needed to get executives, and it was really hard to get them their time. So we just simply did a Zoom meeting and filmed it, and then placed it in video, right? Because it was really hard to get their time in their natural space, in their natural workspace and habitat. So, and then of course, during COVID, that was very difficult. So if you're a virtual organization, that's always an easy go-to, and then share it on a platform. LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. It could be a podcast like this. It could be live sessions such as a webinar or a live Q&A. It's blogs. You can do a blog and interview article, and you can also feature, have some PR and do, some online publication features of your company, newsletters, internal or external to your customer base or your candidates, and then always bring people back to your website, of course, through all of those channels. But seeing a LinkedIn post, for example, with some great visuals on someone's experience with a product, company, service, can go a long way. And then let's say you created a polished and professional marketing video, what we were talking about earlier. Depending on your audience, you might also want to share that messy middle, your struggles, learning moments, how you pivoted from them. Don't be afraid to be personal, as I mentioned earlier. Be vulnerable. It's real. That's that balance, because that's what makes your business human. And then finally, I would say to test and see what resonates before expanding your stories. As I said, it really depends on the audience, the the skill sets that you might be looking for, your client market. Everyone is different, so you want to make sure that you are resonating. You may have done the research, but you still want to test and pilot before you move forward.
Awesome.
Those are all great points, and I'm sure that we could probably go on for another hour in conversation because, all three of us love this kind of discussion. But since we're getting near on time, what is one key takeaway that you would like listeners to kind of remember about the power of storytelling?
Yeah, I would say one key would be facts inform, but stories inspire. People just don't buy what you do. They really buy why you do it. And so if you want to attract customers or top talent or have that brand loyalty and repeat customers, tell the stories that are relatable, that are authentic and meaningful to your target audience. And that's short and sweet right there.
Short and sweet. Yeah, I love it. Kristina, did you have any final questions or thoughts?
Well, just one is that I had to sort of jot down here when you were talking about don't leave out the messy middle, because I love things that just catch in my mind like that. And I was like, that's so true that people like to, sort of relate and have those moments. So there's a couple of things I got, but that was the one I jotted down. So thank you for that.
Life is messy, right? We're all going through it.
Yeah, we can all relate to that, right?
Yeah. So cool.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Charlotte. It has been a wonderful, session with you, and just you brought so many pearls of wisdom to the table for us today. So we really appreciate your time.
Yes, thanks, Deb. Thanks, Kristina, for having me. This has been fun. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn at Charlotte Jones.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. Thank you for following us and listening on Ready, Set, Action. You can follow the show on LinkedIn. We live stream there and also on YouTube. And then there's a podcast on Spotify that you can connect with as well. So thanks for listening, and continue to share topics you'd like to hear about in the future. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.